What's going on, y'all? It's David back with another build video. In this video, I will be covering my Bankai Noelle build. For those of you who watch the anime Bleach, you might understand the reference, but basically this build is focused on stacking energy recharge percent on Noelle to give her elemental burst as much uptime as you possibly can. It has terrific survivability and damage due to defense percent stacking, and aims to have her elemental burst back up as soon as possible. My weapon of choice for this build is the 4-star claymore, the Favonius Greatsword. The Favonius Greatsword comes with decent attack as well as tons of energy recharge percent. The energy recharge percent definitely helps with re-upping her elemental burst meter over time. At R1, the weapon skill on the Favonius also helps gain energy faster, giving you a 60% chance each crit every 12 seconds to gain 6 energy towards her burst, synergizing perfectly with this build. Basically, as long as you are attacking the enemy consistently and dropping elemental orbs, you will have plenty of energy refill for your burst. If you are unlucky and haven't summoned one of these bad boys, I have some terrific news for you. I have a viable pay-to-win alternate weapon option as well as 2 viable free-to-play alternate weapon options for you to choose from. For my pay-to-win players, the Skyward Pride 5-star Claymore is fantastic for this build. It offers plenty of energy recharge percent, not as much as the Favonius, but still quite a bit. Instead of the extra energy recharge, it comes with an incredibly useful weapon skill that is sure to do more damage than the Favonius. At R1, it gives you a base 8% increase to all damage dealt, and on top of that, whenever you burst, your normal and charge attacks create a vacuum blade, dealing 80% physical damage to all enemies for 20 seconds or your next 8 attacks. This claymore is just nuts for clearing out mobs of enemies or just taking down the larger ones. For my free-to-play players, don't worry if you don't have either of these because there are 2 free-to-play weapons that work wonders as well, the Sacrificial Greatsword and the White Blind. The Sacrificial Greatsword is a 4-star weapon, and while there is no guaranteed way to obtain it, you should come across plenty of these with all of the free wishes given out. I think I got 2 of these before I even put money into the game. It comes with just as much energy recharge percent as the Favonius, although the weapon skill isn't as useful for our build. The weapon skill reads, after damaging an enemy with your elemental skill, there's a 40% chance to reset its cooldown, and it can only occur every 30 seconds. This can be useful in fighting a boss, however. For instance, say like you just use your shield on Noelle to proc the weapon skill, and then the boss hits you with a big attack and then your shield breaks. You can now throw your shield back up because of the weapon skill, whereas if you didn't have the weapon, you would be missing out on the shield to block damage, heal you, and potentially even buff your damage. Also, it is worth noting that this should be able to proc both when you throw up your shield and once it breaks if you have the constellation for it. The White Blind, on the other hand, is completely free to play, available to be crafted from the blacksmith for easily accessible materials. The White Blind doesn't offer extra energy recharge percent for the build, but what it does offer is tons of damage. Its substat is defense percent, and your weapon skill will give you even more defense percent when attacking, making you a tanky like DPS hybrid beast. Just make sure you bring along a team that can generate high amounts of energy to compensate for the substat. Now for the artifacts, there are a handful of healthful options like Gladiator or Archaic Petra, but my go-to 99.99% of the time is the 4-piece Bolide set. The 2-piece gives you an increase to shield value, and the 4-piece increases your basic attack damage by a whopping 40% when shielded. The Gladiator set might be better overall for like more consistent damage, and the Petra might be better for elemental burst damage, but I made this build to have the option to solo bosses and such, and no other set right now does it better than Bolide for this build. If you aren't able to farm for the Bolide set just yet, don't worry because a 2-piece set of like Defenders will, or I think Traveling Doctor will keep you healthy, while a 2-piece of either Scholar or Exile will get your burst back up online even quicker. The main stats that you want to be looking for on my Bankai Noelle build for your Sands, Goblet, and Circlet are energy recharge percent, defense percent, and defense percent respectively. The sand slot is important because having that large amount of energy recharge percent really helps charge up your burst quickly for the build. The other 2 slots are just defense percent because defense percent is arguably Noelle's best and most effective stat. It gives her durability, extra healing, shielding, and damage. If you have really good artifacts, you might be able to get away with running triple defense percent as long as you have a lot of energy recharge percent substats. Having at least 200% energy recharge percent will ensure that you can get at the very least your burst backup from no more than 5 procs of your Favonius weapon. The substats that you want to be rolling for in order are energy recharge percent for your burst, defense percent for the rest of your kit, crit rate for your Favonius weapon, and then everything else doesn't matter nearly as much. My Bankai Noelle does not need constellation levels to be great. I run a budget version on my newer account and it runs perfectly fine, but that being said, constellation levels really do make her just that much more insane. Here are the constellation level power spikes that really boost the effectiveness of this build. At C1, you get guaranteed heals from having your elemental skill and burst active at the same time. This may seem pretty like meh, but honestly, once you break into like harder content or just try soloing stuff, this ability is a lifesaver. At C5, you get a free 3 upgrades to your elemental burst, which is pretty much the main focus of this build. And then finally at C6, you get the godlike Noelle constellation. Your attack gets boosted even further based off of your defense, and your elemental burst duration can be extended for up to 10 more seconds. For Noelle's talents, I would for sure max out your elemental burst first, since that is kind of like the entire idea of this build. Then I would max your elemental skill second for the shield value and healing, and if you're just using this build, I would honestly not even touch the basic attacks, because you should really realistically only be using your burst to attack. Her ascension talents are both very good, but her 4th ascension talent stands out the most because reducing your breastplate's cooldown to also always be up whenever you are bursting is incredibly potent, especially if you have the Bolite set or you just need some healing. I started off building this build to just solo bosses and stuff, but it's also incredibly effective alongside a team that can produce energy recharge particles very quickly. Some units that come to mind are Zhongli, Ningguang, Fischl, and Bennett. Zhongli and Ningguang get bonus points because they are also Geo, and producing a ton of Geo elemental particles will give you a surefire way of keeping up your Bankai Noelle going just non-stop. Fischl and Bennett on the other hand are just really honestly solid units that mostly everyone should have built by now, and they generate energy very consistently with their elemental skills. I have soloed the Childe weekly boss with this build, and I have also soloed plenty of Abyss stages with this build, although I do enjoy using this build on a team in Abyss just a little bit more for the elemental advantages and stuff. I'll play a clip of all of those for the rest of the video, but for now, thank you all for watching till the end. Before you click away, please make sure to smash that thumbs up button if you enjoyed the video, and elemental burst the subscribe button and notification bell to support the channel. I appreciate all of you just so much for doing that. Make sure to drop me a comment below if you want to see a certain character next, and I will check you all in the next video. See ya! Chance.
失礼しました。岩の重さは安心できます。石の風格に気をつけます。
やるじゃないか。
助けが必要な方がいるはずです。失礼しました。
無駄だ。回避だけじゃダメだよ。釣りつぶすよ。
岩の重さは安心できます。助けが必要な方がいるはずです。きれいにし しませんと。助けが必要な方がいるはずです。騎士の風格に気をつけます。任せてください。岩の重さは安心できます。これで間に合いますね。綺麗にしませんと。任せてください。メイドの礼儀に気をつけます。岩の重さは安心できます。
I've been searching for this all my life. You're just my type.